We're good. Salud.
I think we need to put a beat behind that.
We're good. We're good. We're good.
Shut up and sit down.
Believe in yourself because you came all the way to here. That means you must have some talent. You must have some potential. Just don't throw it away by just giving up.
I let go of the handlebars, let go of the handles. I let go of the handlebars, letting go of the handles. Yeah, I can't keep my hands off you or off my bicycle.
I've told you once and I'll tell you again. Shut up, legs. I'd love to say that to Matt Lee Grand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von Doering as well, but I'd probably get canned from this gig. Nevertheless, enjoy the Dialed podcast.
Yep.
Yes, showing up and participating is important. Trying your best is important, but neither deserves a trophy. If you want one of those, go win some.
Do I look too cool? Do I look too cool? On my bicycle, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm sorry,
You ate all the waffles?
Yes, I did.
Could have asked us if we wanted any.
Nuh-uh, if I give you the waffles, I won't get any.
Link, would you like a waffle?
There is no more waffles. I have them all.
Why, yes, Red. I think I would like 2 waffles.
You can't, you want 2 of them? I just don't know why you guys get all the waffles. You guys are being selfish.
Hi, and welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm Jake Von Doering. I'm here with Lance friggin' Hepler.
Lance Hepler. Freaking Hepler. Lance friggin' Hepler.
There you go. Friggity frack.
Welcome.
To his left, Matt LeGrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? You guys look a little busted up today. A little beat up. A little rough around the edges.
I have a black eye.
You don't have to have any. I didn't say you specifically.
You meant it.
You guys.
You were staring right at my black eye.
And pointing.
And pointing when you said that.
Oh, it was subtle though, wasn't it?
I'm not sure why I have a black eye. This is what happens when you're a geriatric athlete and they send you an AARP card in the mail. When you get those AARP cards, it comes with mysterious bruises that just pop up.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
That or maybe sucking a little too much wheel.
It's possible. I was sitting on some wheels yesterday for a long time on a gravel race, and I don't know. I woke up with a black eye.
What kind of sunglasses do you use?
I use 100%.
Are they're big? They're beefy?
Yeah, they're big and beefy.
Good coverage.
And I never took them off. They stayed on the whole time.
I don't know. I
might have gotten pelted with something.
Did your wife beat you? Is this one of those like, I fell down the stairs again? I'm sorry.
I'm safe. Everything's safe.
In a safe place?
Brandy's gotten in some fights in her day. She's thrown some haymakers.
Oh,
but
boy.
We shouldn't talk about that.
We shouldn't. She's not even here to defend herself. So
no.
Okay.
Oh, you guys. Love it.
I don't know what happened.
That's
there.
just how the intros go.
That's what happened with the intros.
Hey.
That's hot. That's hot. That's hot.
seat.
That's hot. That's hot.
So hot.
So hot.
You guys want to do a hot seat?
That's a hot seat.
Let's do the hot seat this week. Who wants to go first? Matt is still.
I haven't yet to decide, but I always have like 3 or 4 things.
He's always got all kinds of fun little questions up his sleeve. So let's start with Lance. 'Cause he was the first one to come up with a question.
Okay.
Lance, go.
Okay. Paris-Roubaix happened a week ago. Okay. We haven't even talked about it yet.
Gotcha.
On this podcast. No, he did not do it.
He didn't race.
He says that his hands aren't tough
I thought
enough
you were
to
talking
do
about for
Paris-Roubaix
next year
yet.
who's going to win it. But no, sorry.
Okay.
Paris-Roubaix, and there ended
He also
up,
said he needs to gain 10 pounds.
he said he needs to gain weight and get tougher hands.
And I was saying that out loud, and my kids were like, "Why does he need to gain weight?" And I'm like, he's a Grand Tour rider. It's hard to explain.
Paris-Roubaix is it beats the snot out of you. It's a rough race. Do you remember the race where George Hincapie was riding and his stem just snapped and he just went over the bars?
Oh,
that happened in the middle of the race. And another time, somebody crashed in front of Peter Sagan and he bunny hopped him.
Bunny hopped him. I remember that one.
Kept going. I freaking love that race. Anyway, we haven't talked about it. There was some controversy, though, with tubeless tires that happened because there were a lot of crashes this year. And Luke Rowe from Ineos Grenadiers, he thinks that a lot of those crashes are because of tubeless tires. And he called it out. This has been like one of the first poor things to be talked about with tubeless tires. What do you think?
everybody's entitled to an opinion.
True.
Okay.
And
Yeah, well,
opinions are like a-holes. Everybody has one.
That's correct.
is this because they tend to like explode as opposed to, right? Isn't that the argument?
So what he's saying is like, if you get a flat on a tubeless tire, especially if it's been recently sealed on the rim, if you get a flat, it can come right off the rim immediately. And you saw that happen during the race. A guy is on the Ehrenberg Forest, cruising along, his front tire goes flat, and the tire comes right off the rim. Mm-hmm. And it just like folds up and gets stuck.
I've seen that with tubulars. I've seen it with tube tires. It's happened to all of them. You know, wheels and tires are not a perfect science.
Yeah.
But if you take the three of them and put them together, there's a reason why they're running those in Paris-Roubaix, because they're the most effective tire out there.
Yep.
So, okay, you might have a point in terms of like it might have contributed to the accident itself, but if you take the whole thing and put it all together and you look at all the different wheel and tire options, that is your best bet. And so I wouldn't throw it under the bus just because a couple people either set up their wheel tire combination wrong or ran too low over tire pressure or hit a big giant pothole and burped it a little bit, which forced the tire to come off at some point in time. I mean, there's a multitude of different things that can cause a wheel and tire combination to have catastrophic, failure. But for what it's worth, I mean, tubeless tires have been around for a long time. You don't see people crying about this kind of stuff in mountain biking, do you?
No, you
And they're
don't.
putting them through the paces way more than they are on the road.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude.
They're worth it. Now, Luke Rowe, they Ineos Grenadiers, they all raced on tubeless as well. Mm-hmm. The difference is they all had inserts in their wheels.
You guys like the inserts.
And so even on their road bikes, they ran with inserts.
Yeah.
And he what Luke Rowe said was, I like the inserts because if you go flat, you still keep your tire shape, and the tire really usually stays on the rim. The whole thing doesn't come off.
Not only do they stay on the rim, in some cases you actually have to cut the tire off to get it off the actual wheel. I've helped somebody with that once. They'd come down from Seattle. They were doing the Vancouver Courthouse Criterium, which was the regional championships. And he wanted to come out and do the hammer crit the next day. Well, during the race, he got a big slit in his tire, and then we were going to help him put a new tire on there at the race. Could not get it off for the life of me. We could not get anything underneath the bead to get that thing off. So I literally told the guy, hey, we're going to be providing race support for the race the next day. Let me take this back. I will go into work after hours tonight, and I'll get this swapped over for you. Had to get out a pair of scissors and some dikes, and I had to cut the tire off in order to get off because that insert was so difficult to work with, and you just couldn't. You've experienced this with gravel tires. You've experienced it with.
I cut a tire off on my gravel wheels once.
I'm telling you that it was infinitely more difficult with a road setup. However, the plus side is like you said, yes, it's got some benefits to it with respect. If you do have a blowout, you can still ride on it. I wouldn't race on it in a Criterium with some real hard banking turns, but if you're out on a road race, you could probably make that be a little bit more serviceable for a long period of time.
He said a lot of teams don't want to put inserts in their road tires because it's weight. Mm-hmm. It's what Luke Rowe said was it's 2 or 3 watts harder. You lose 2 or 3 watts by having that in there. So and he just said, dude, just put the inserts in and ride with a little bit of confidence that your tire's not going to explode off the rim. Anyway.
Yeah. So how did the tires explode, though? I mean, what were the scenarios? I mean, what actually happened? Did they burp? Did they get slits?
Yeah.
Did they burped? Okay.
Yeah. So he's riding down Ehrenberg Forest, which is one of the 5-star pave sector, cobble sectors.
Yeah.
Really rough. He flatted. Once he flatted, it burped. It popped off the wheel.
Was it all instantaneous, or was he trying to ride on it until a neutral car came up to give him a new...
It was all instantaneous.
Okay.
It all just like ripped off, and then all of a sudden his tire's like, and there's sealant spraying everywhere, and his tire is like folding up into his fork, and he's like...
I think that's where it gets dangerous. I was descending at one point, and and this was tube, and it like everything blew, and then everything got stuck in the rim brake, and you because then you're skidding to a stop.
Yeah.
And as long as you're balanced, you can do it without crashing, but it's also pretty freaking scary.
Yeah.
Oh. What's your take, Lance?
I think everybody should be riding tubeless. I think it's way better. And I haven't even really considered putting inserts in my in my road tires.
We've got a bunch of them down at the lab from Vittoria that are pretty lightweight, and they
Probably worth trying.
It's potentially worth trying. It just depends on what kind of riding you like to do.
Yeah.
Again,
Probably go lower pressure.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would take it out on the road though until I knew for sure that I had the ability to get the tire off in the event that I did have something catastrophic happen and I needed to put a boot and a tube in there.
Right.
Technically you can be riding on it, but I don't know. Maybe I need to test that part of it too. Is it safe? Can you hit turns and do all the necessary things on a bike?
Probably
not
how
turns.
hard is roadside maintenance going to be? We seem to have more issues with road tires.
Yeah.
Roadside maintenance.
Yeah.
Than other stuff that you can't.
How many wheels and tires have you known me to have issues with where I have not been able to successfully accomplish what we need to accomplish?
I can't think.
For
of
me
any.
to tell you that I had to take a wheel and tire combination back to the lab and cut it off.
It was freaking pretty rock solid.
It wasn't.
tight
It
on
was
there.
not
It
coming
wasn't
off. I mean, there
off.
might be somebody on the face of this planet that can get it off, but there's not too many of those people out there, and I could not get it off without cutting the damn thing off.
So I had a gravel pair of wheels that the tire was bad. It was just time to change it, and it had an insert in there, and the insert had been in there for a year or two, so it was really solid in there. And I think I broke 3 tire levers trying to get the tire off. I couldn't get under it enough, and I kept snapping tire levers.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing. I cut the tire in half. I had to cut through the Kevlar bead with a pair like a razor blade, so I didn't mess up the rim. It was like
Did you
an
put your
operation.
dentist
Yeah, I put
goggles
my
on? What do you guys call those?
Loops.
Loops.
Put my loops on so I can look really closely. Yeah, it was fun. It was not fun.
Matt, would you run inserts?
Yeah, I would. I'm just not worried about weight. And I don't know. I'm also not super worried about like the additional benefits of getting potentially lower tire pressure. But I would probably try it. Keep the wife's phone number close at hand because I do think that when you're talking about switching that out, that's a much messier situation.
Yeah.
So I would try it. I just think like if you get to the point where you're like, yeah, I can't switch this for tube when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Then yeah, it's probably not doing you any services.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, what tires are you guys running on the road right now that you're really liking, tubeless wise?
I'm still running those Pirellis.
Pirellis?
I'm still running those too, and
Yeah.
I haven't had any flats.
I love those Pirellis.
Yeah. I ran the Pirellis for 2 years, all through the pandemic when we couldn't get anything else, but Pirelli stepped up and they were able to deliver us some tires. So I ran those all through the COVID era. And then all of a sudden we couldn't get stuff from them. And then all of a sudden the stuff that we had ordered from Continental came in. I really like the new Continental tires, but they just seemed like in that 2 year time period when I was running Pirellis, 0 issues, no slits, maybe a puncture here and there that you never even noticed, like it spits and then it seals and then you're good to go. I started running those Contis and almost instantly I'm dealing with slits and punctures, and it was difficult for the sealant to seal those up.
Oh.
Which was interesting. And I'm like, well, maybe that's just bad luck, but there's got to be something to that. Because, I mean, if you go ride on a particular set of wheels for 2 years and you have virtually no problems with it, and I'm continuously riding, and I'm a creature of habit. I do a lot of the routes, over and over and over and over again. So they're going to be subject to the same kind of terrain. The Contis, I was just having issues with them like all the time. And then I went away from the Contis because it was one of those situations where I put too many slits in them and had too many tire plugs. I'm like, all right, I got to put something different on
What'd you
here.
go back to?
Well, I went ahead.
Pirellis?
We tried some of the Vittoria Next tires, and those actually were pretty good. They seemed like they were a little bit more resilient. I did deal with a slit or two, but they seemed like they were fine until I had the one catastrophic slit that I did put a tube or a plug into, and then rode it until I got home, and then went back to the Pirellis, and have been on the Pirellis since, and they've been lights out.
It's super interesting. No problems with those. I have to think that there's some drawbacks to it, right? Like we think maybe the rolling resistance is worse.
It's slightly.
It's hard because that's what.
So if you're gonna
get other people to measure that
look
stuff,
at like
we don't do it ourselves.
say like 40K, and if you're going to run on a Contis and it's going to save you 10 seconds, I mean that technically could be quite a bit if you're doing a time trial. But in that same 40K, how many tire slits are you going to get because the rubber compound's a little bit different? And then
maybe zero if you're
lucky.
I think here's the thing. There's so much debate about this stuff, tires, rolling resistance, puncture resistance, and the balance between all of it. Maybe we lean towards puncture resistance and then swap out for big races. It's a little bit hard when you're saying like, I think there's still something to be said after all these years. I still think there's something to be said for like trainer wheels with trainer tires on there. Race day comes and you swap out for a different wheel set with the tires on there that aren't quite as puncture resistant, but they are significantly faster. I don't know.
I don't know if
that's
increasing your risk by that much for a road bike race. I'm gonna stick with what I know works and what's gonna be the most puncture resistance. If I'm gonna go out and do a time trial or a triathlon or something along those lines where you're racing against the clock and every second counts, I'm gonna roll the dice and I'm gonna see if I can get something that's a little bit faster.
Get you that little edge. That's what I did for Ironman races. I usually went with a like they have this like Conti TT, which is a pretty paper thin, but I also know that Ironman's they're gonna go over the road and they're gonna try and clear it up a little bit before the races. I mean, people still have flats out there.
It's a faster tire, a lot faster tire. So it is race day. You're kind of going for it.
I mean, we could theoretically all be using the gator skins out there, but we don't.
Yeah. Well, Pirelli does make the SL version of their P0 tire, and those are lacking one less layer of protection.
Okay.
And it does increase the speed. I don't know how it compares. I'd have to go look at some of the charts. Was it Slather or whatever? Is that the website that you use?
Bike Blather.
Or Slather.
Yeah, Bike Blather.
Anyway, go and see what they were seeing with the rolling resistance. And kind of go from there.
My gut feeling is that the Pirellis are pretty good.
Yeah.
Like they're probably not the best. I don't think that they're, the best, but I think they're a nice little mix of, hey, we're not seeing a lot of flats with them, and the rolling resistance is fine.
Yeah.
It's not like horrific.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'd be curious to know if other people are having issues with the Contis as well, because that's probably one of the biggest and most well-known brands.
It's the 5000 GT 5000.
The GP 5000.
GP 5000.
Yeah.
Thank you.
SLRs, I think, or TLRs. So
okay.
Yes, I don't know. They got all these letters and numbers behind it, but I've just had issues with them. I like them when they're not flat. They roll really nice and they're supple and they do a lot of good stuff, but I just have too many punctures. Mm-hmm. Don't know if it's just sheer bad luck or what, but
I think right now we're in a happy place, and also like I don't know, you guys are racing. We'll talk about that later today in this podcast, but like I'm not racing.
Yeah,
I just want to be able to go out and ride and not worry about it.
Lance, are you running inserts still on your gravel bike?
Yeah,
and then mountain bike too, right?
Yeah,
cross bike as well.
Yeah,
so you're all inserted up except for the road.
Everything but the road bike.
And you have flats on the gravel bike at some point, right? You ever have to struggle with pulling stuff out and taking things apart?
Knock on wood, I've never had to do that.
Everything's good.
Yeah.
What tire are you running on your gravel bike right now?
I have 45 Maxxis Ramblers.
You ran 45s yesterday?
Yep.
Okay. You were telling me that you wanted to run some 38s. I'm thinking in my head, like, well, I guess he wants to go down from a 40 to a 30. I didn't realize.
I have 45s.
Dual 45s?
Yes, front and rear. I have 45s on that bike because I've used it at Rebecca's Private Idaho, which has some really rowdy sections, and so I put them on that bike last year for that, and I've just left them on because
I bet it's more fun to ride those.
Yeah, there's about 20 seconds yesterday. It's like, I'm the man. I got the best tire selection out of everybody right now. We'll get into that later, but
I had like the fastest time of every athlete down that one section.
Oh, really?
No surprise.
That raced yesterday because I was on those tires.
Also because you're like descending and you kind of have a laissez-faire attitude towards
my health.
Yes.
Towards
your black eyes, black eye level.
Hence, I have a black eye.
All right, my hot seat question can be. I have like 4 of them now. I keep finding more.
You gotta listen.
My hot seat question can
Let
be.
me take my pants off. Hold on.
Would you guys ever consider one of the new systems where you can adjust tire pressure?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
100%. Absolutely, yes. On all my bikes.
This is applicable because they were using these new systems at Paris-Roubaix. They threatened to use them last year.
Jumbo Visma
yes.
did use them, but only a few athletes on Jumbo Visma use them. Not
Wout
all
said
of them.
no.
Wout said no.
I would. That doesn't surprise me.
My take on after watching Paris-Roubaix, it was kind of a.
How did Wout lose that race?
Okay, Wout did lose that race by flatting with like 15K to go. But he wasn't on that race. However, the 3 athletes that did have it.
And all in the top 10?
No.
Okay.
It was like a total failure.
No, I thought that they had some. I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading
they
this.
all ended up flatting and having to switch
Oh,
wheels.
really?
And
It was a total failure.
It just did not pan out.
They switched wheels and they're like, screw this.
Switch wheels or had to switch bikes that didn't have the
weird system.
air system in it. So yeah, it just Paris-Roubaix is a brutal race, and they kind of thought that having this variable tire pressure system,
it's a great idea.
It's a great idea, but it didn't pan out.
Okay, so the system as it stands now, you're like, hell no.
Well, I'm not doing crazy crap like Paris-Roubaix.
Well, I think it could potentially make a lot of sense on a gravel bike. Like at a gravel
I would
race.
so put that on my gravel bike. How
Even
clutch
if
would
it's-
that have been yesterday to have that?
really
There's
nice.
so many times where you could have just, because it was such a mixed match of surfaces yesterday that you could have optimized for every single one of them.
I went with way higher tire pressure than I normally would have
Sure.
yesterday because there was so much paved, and it finished with a 10-mile paved section.
Yeah.
By high, you mean like 40 something?
Correct.
Okay.
Like I went 45 in the rear and 40 in the front, where
Which
I normally,
is a lot for a 45 mil tire.
Yes, I normally would have ridden like 27 and 30. So I went way higher because I knew there was going to be all this paved section. Anyway.
Okay.
So like everything else, like tubeless tires, for instance, when they first came out, they were not perfect.
Yeah.
They had to go through a lot of revisions. They had to go through testing, and then they have slowly refined it over the course of time. That system will be, well, can you buy it? Could you and I buy it right now if we wanted to? Or is it still kind of
I don't think so.
I bet it's hard to find. So they've had this for a year because they were threatening to use it last year. So theoretically, if they're threatening to use it, they have like a grace period before it has to be publicly available if it's going to be used in a pro race. So I think it would be available somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think that once they get it all ironed out, and I guess one thing I don't know is like how much of a weight penalty comes along with that thing.
Yeah,
That's set up.
It seems to sit in the hub. I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah, I've seen pictures as well. I'm just not quite sure. So
I'm sure
that
there's a weight penalty. Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, they'll have that thing pretty refined, and it'll be pretty streamlined, and it'll be very super clean.
Yeah. I bet someday we look back at this picture and be like, oh, man, that used to look pretty rough.
Yeah, because what it looks like right now is like a valve coming out.
Tubes coming down the spoke and then a valve.
I bet you a buck that at some point in time that there won't be a valve stem. It'll actually be a spoke that they use, and it'll come down the spoke from the hub, and that spoke will be specifically there to, work through the whole system of pushing air in and out, and it'll allow you to, do what you got to do for the race or the ride that you're doing at that point in time. And the fact that you can put air in and take it out, that's pretty special.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to work. But yeah, I mean, there you go. You can see the hub, and these pictures. I'm sure it adds weight.
It has to.
Sure,
for
it adds weight.
But some of these bikes, they're adding weight to them just to get them up to the legal UCI. So there's ways to compensate for that.
You got probably batteries. You got chips to do some sort of wireless connectivity.
Sure.
Yeah, you got the head unit piece for the buttons. It's going to add a little bit of weight.
There's no reason to ever use that on a TT bike, right? I mean, I can't think of any. I mean, I can't think of a course out there where.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just really road and gravel and probably mountain bike eventually.
For those, it's like pick your tire pressure for the road that you're racing. I think for a gravel race like what you guys did, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
That would be very interesting to be able to flip. I mean, I'd love to have it be like there's just two switches, flip between two different tire pressures. That'd be interesting. Where it's like, this is pretty much road. I can go 40.
Yeah.
Or this is pretty much mountain biking. I want to go 20 something. That'd be nice. Switch between those two.
So Lance, you're no dice on that?
No, I would do it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a weight penalty with it, but it's going to get better.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt.
But if it's like,
I would love to play with it.
But if it's like $2,000 for it, I would think twice.
Yeah.
Because
I wonder how much that would cost now if it was out. I'm sure someone's yelling at
Do you have to buy the full wheel? I mean,
gosh, I don't know.
Wheels aren't cheap.
I bet you that you build the wheel around this new hub or something.
Yeah. Like a good entry level carbon wheel is going to be, we'll leave Hunt out of this, but we'll say like, $11, $12, $13, $1,400.
Yeah.
And then you can go kind of as high as you want almost. I mean, there's zip wheels out there that are, $4,400, or if you want to go with the lightweights, those are like $6,000. I mean, you can go pretty crazy. So I'm pretty sure that that's going to just be a hub that can be married up to pretty much any wheel set. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to be one of those things that you could put it on one of those entry level wheels. So
extra $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then is it all wireless? Is that how that's working?
It seems to be.
That's kind of cool. I mean, less wiring. I mean, as long as it works and it's reliable.
It's extra switches on the handlebar, but yeah.
Well, we don't have dropper posts on road bikes yet. I mean, that's a thing that's coming down the road. So maybe we'll have a whole like dashboard cockpit thing. And
can you imagine just having a row of buttons on your handlebar? Yeah,
bike looking like Knight Rider going down the street.
I think that they should consider integrating all this into bike computers as well.
Yeah,
right? Like you got SRAM that owns Hammerhead Karoo too. Yep. If they're like, yeah, you can control your tire pressure on this computer and your dropper post and your shifting.
Yeah.
Well, that would be very cool.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, hey, if you want to, you can just set it to automatically handle a lot of this stuff, except for your dropper post, because that would be startling. But yeah.
Yeah, that would be kind of crazy though, because like if you're riding on Ride with GPS and you're looking at a route, it will show you all of the paved and all of the off-road sections, and it could technically pull from that and see that like, hey, gravel's approaching. Would you like to adjust your tire pressure?
Yeah,
sure. Why not? That'd be cool.
That'd be very cool.
Yeah.
The other thing I think they're looking into, and again, this is like looking into the tea leaves of what SRAM could do, is if they have power information that's can detect like how much chatter there is.
Yeah.
Then they can make some adjustments accordingly.
Yeah.
Which is kind of an interesting way. It's a different way than looking at GPS data. It's like looking at like live ride data, which might be more fun. We'll see.
Cool.
You can adjust suspension and things like that.
Yep.
So
I like that. It's a good question, Matt.
I've been trying to. So there's a company called Grava Caps.
There's two companies, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a cost on it, and I can't find one. They've teased it and they've released some, but they haven't said how much it is.
I'm gonna guess that it's probably like $2,000 as of like prototype version, but now I think when it comes to market that it'll end up being $1,000. That's a lot, or maybe they'll try to slide under $1,000. And do you have some sort of CO2 cartridge that you put into the hub somehow? Like, how does that work?
Question.
All good questions.
We need a YouTube channel that can explore this.
I think I might know somebody who would do a nice little review on that.
A couple channels.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on that?
No. You can pre-order it now.
Hot.
Got a hot seat question for you boys. You ready?
Ready.
What is the worst mistake you've ever made in a race?
No.
Ready?
Oh,
go.
I need to think about that because there's probably lots of them. Oh, I got one for you. Triathlon, you put sunscreen on before the race, right?
Okay.
And you also like try to clear out your goggles, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see where you're going with this.
I smeared sunscreen on the inside of my goggles once, right before like the gun went off, and could not see. Had to pull my goggles off and swim without them as I was racing. That was fine. Once I got the goggles off, it was fine. For the first, 200 meters of the race, it was ugly.
Yeah.
Just couldn't see anything.
Interesting.
Swimming around blind.
That's good. That's not where I was thinking that was going to go in terms of like the question, but that's probably more of a tactical error than just about anything, because that probably cost you a fair amount of time in the swim. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I was fairly new to triathlon at the time. It's like all these things you have to learn by making mistakes. Like, how come I couldn't just learn it by reading it somewhere or finding a YouTube channel that told you all these things? I've also done the sunscreen on your forehead that drips into your eyes and burns.
Burns like hell. Yep.
That I hate.
Oh,
$3,000.
Holy cow.
Well,
I found it.
3,200 euros.
3,200 euros.
What does that equate out to? Is like $2,800 or something?
It includes the wheels.
No, the euro and the dollar. They're getting closer now, aren't they?
They're pretty close.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like $3,000.
Yikes.
Oof. But that does include the wheel set.
That includes.
Oh,
the wheel
does
set.
it? Okay.
It includes the wheel set.
What's the wheel? Is it their own proprietary wheel?
Yeah.
Is it alloy or gravel? Or not gravel, but carbon?
I don't know.
It's made of plastic.
Sorry, I just derailed Jake's question as I was digging.
No, it's all good. We wanted to know that.
We did, yeah.
So sunscreen in the eyes.
Sunscreen in the eyes, sunscreen in the
No
goggle.
bueno. Yep.
Inside of your goggles is not good. I'll come up with something while Lance tells us a funny story.
I have made hundreds of race errors. It's difficult for me to remember the bad memories other than like recent races because I made a terrible mistake last weekend. But I'll get to that.
Last weekend, huh?
Last weekend.
At the Bone Crusher?
At the mountain bike race.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I blew up. But the one that comes to mind first before that was the first ever triathlon I did. And
triathletes make mistakes.
And total newbie and rookie, didn't really know. I got on the bike and I caught up to somebody and
sat on his wheel.
I sat on his wheel. I'm like, dude, this is way easier right here. I'm just going to sit here. And the dude was yelling at me. And I'm like, we're racing, dude. Shut up. What are you yelling at me for? It's because I was completely breaking the rules, drafting. I didn't even know what drafting was or that it was illegal. I was a complete newbie, and I sat on the dude's wheel for like a mile before he screamed at me enough that I
figured it out
and realized I was cheating. I did not mean to be cheating. I didn't know I was cheating.
Totally
It didn't matter
reasonable.
anyway because I finished the bike and I started the run and like a 60-year-old grandma ran past me in the run and I thought
that happens.
Beautiful. I'm
good at this sport.
Right.
That's good. I've made a few blunders in my day. There was the dirty circles. I remember doing that a few years ago. Guys, this was probably like maybe 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll go back about 5 years ago. We're out there doing this race, and it was one of those where you get marked, and anything you try and do, everybody sits right on your wheel, and you can't get away for nothing. And there wasn't too many other people in my race to shake it up and mix it up. And I remember just go, and the whole field would go, and then I would stop, and no joke, we would go from like 21, 22, 23 miles down to like 16, 17, 18 miles an hour, and nobody attacked the entire time. And I remember towards the end of the race, I'm like, screw this. There's probably like 500 meters to go. And I'm like, I'm just going to attack from the outside and just try and take this thing to home.
Long.
Yeah, that didn't work out. So I had sat
Everybody's been resting for 45 minutes. You're not going to get away if you jump like that.
Yeah. And it was more out of frustration. So I guess I got frustrated and tried to do something instead of winning a race that I should have won easily. I think I ended up getting like fourth place, but that was mistake number one. But the other mistake that's probably the bigger mistake is still to this day was when we did the Jack Frost time trial last year. And I did it on a bike that was the very first time I'd ever ridden said bike. We just finished building it.
Oh.
And the fit wasn't perfect, but I'm like, all right, it's good enough. I'll go out there and I'll do my thing. And about, I don't know, a third of the way into it, I realized that my seat post was sliding down. And by the end of the race, it had gone down like 1.5 inches to 2 inches.
Oh, no. That's a lot.
Don't ride a brand new bike for the very first time in a race. That's just the stupidest thing that you can do.
No new things for race day.
No.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. But
okay, so here's the major mistake I made last weekend at the Bone Crusher mountain bike race. This was a 60-minute race, so it was a timed race, and it was a 5.5 mile loop that was mostly single track. And I did not pre-ride it. I did not know how long the course, the laps would take us, but I figured that the laps would be like 28, 29 minutes, and I was certain. I didn't think about it. This was the mistake I made. I didn't think about it. I figured we'd only be doing 2 laps, right? That would be about a 60-minute race. And I came through the first lap, and I had a lead at that point. I had like a 20-second lead on my compatriots, and I came through the first lap in like 23 minutes, and it still didn't register in my brain. So I do the whole second lap with this lead, and I extended it to like almost a minute. So I had almost a minute lead on second place, and I came through for that second lap thinking, I got this in the bag. It's all good. I went pretty hard the last quarter of that lap because I thought, I've got this. And I rolled down to where you go right to the finish line or you go left on another lap, and they pointed me left. And I'm like, what? Are we doing another lap? And he's like, yep. And I'm like,
whoa.
Damn it.
At least you didn't like go to the finish line. I mean, You've seen track athletes, right, where they miscounted laps and they finish a race and then like the race keeps going.
Right.
And they're like,
we
miscount.
So I was gassed a little bit, going through this
last little bit.
And so my third lap, it was like 40 seconds slower than the other 2 laps. It wasn't a whole lot slower, but a dude caught me because I had played my card already.
Yeah.
And he ended up sitting on my wheel for the last 10 minutes of the race. And sucker out sprinted me at the end. Dang. I literally lost the race by like 2 feet, like half a wheel length. It was super close. So I completely blew it. Yes. Thank you, Jake. Yeah. So that was a mistake.
Good.
Just not figuring that it would be 3 laps. Why wouldn't it be 3 laps? It should have been 3 laps. I just blew it.
Yeah. Sometimes you just like decide something and then you don't think to question it.
Yeah.
You're just like, yep, could. 2 laps probably.
Yeah, right.
Any other mistakes you've made, Matt?
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I mean, I'm pretty much perfect.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the...
I've got one other one, but I'm going to save it for my back pedal.
Okay.
Lance, any other mistakes? So you said you had hundreds of them. Come on, tell us another story.
I feel like I shouldn't be sharing my dirty laundry, so I think that's enough mistakes. Because there's so many.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, should we just move along then?
Let's move along.
Always good to make things move a little faster, especially when you guys have longer back pedals.
Yeah. Not too shabby.
My back pedal can be pretty quick.
Cool. Do we want to back pedal first? Do you want to do call Champ Bailey in the room here and see what he's got going on?
We can Champ Bailey it up.
You want to Champ Bailey it?
See if he's here.
Is he in the house?
Nope.
He's not in the house?
Yeah, Champ Bailey is here.
Bailey, top 5.
I think he's in the top 5 discussion. I mean,
He's
I'm
still
not
top 5?
Go out crazy.
Hall of Famer?
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer.
No.
I was top 5 this weekend, but that wasn't Champ Bailey.
Champ Bailey.
That was geriatric Lance Hepler.
Champ Bailey, what's up, dude?
All right, so lots of races. We've already talked about a couple of them.
Yeah.
Paris-Roubaix, which we didn't ever get a chance to talk about. It ended up being the Matthew Vanderpool show.
Yeah.
But it really was shaping up to be another Vanderpool-Wout showdown, and Wout flatted with like 15K to go, and
it looked like it was just going to be a duel between those two.
Now what's crazy is that segment, he probably flatted halfway through that last cobble segment that he flatted on, and he still got the Strava KOM.
What?
On a flat tire.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So he was drilling it, but he knew they couldn't change the thing until he got there, and so. Anyway, Vanderpool ended up winning. It was brilliant. His teammate, Jasper Philipsen, who is a great sprinter, ended up coming in with Wout and out-sprinted Wout. So Alpecin took first and second with Vanderpool and Philipsen, and Wout took third. So Wout was frustrated, but that's
now,
racing.
This is in the velodrome finish. And how many laps around the velodrome is it before? Is it like
1.5?
1.5.
Yep.
And so like when...
You've been there.
I have. I've ridden my little weird bike on the velodrome.
So when Vanderpool finished, you could see Wout and Jasper in the background. They still had another lap to go,
They had
right?
another lap to go.
There's a cool picture
There's
of that.
a really cool picture
Sure.
because it looks like they're 10 yards back, and Phillips has got his hand in the air like, yeah, you've got it. But they still had to go another lap. And
Jasper's no slouch when it comes to sprinting.
He's a
so
phenomenal sprinter. Yeah. So it was
Lance, when you raced on the velodrome there, see, I just tee this up. When you've raced basically the same course.
I've raced basically the same course. I did, except I went the wrong direction on the velodrome.
Yeah, details.
That was pretty
when you're
cool.
sprinting for the line in this race, you usually like to go high.
Yeah, you go high and then cut low.
Cut low.
Yeah, you use that momentum from dropping down.
just got to be careful on those 16-inch tires, though.
Yes,
we need your professional opinion.
The women's Paris-Roubaix race was fantastic well. It was really great. A little bit shorter than the men's race.
Is this the first year that they've done that?
It's the third year.
Third year?
Yeah.
But it seems like they're getting better coverage.
Yes,
now.
they are getting better coverage. And it's exciting racing. It's fun to watch. It's been really good.
Was there any upsets?
So Allison Jackson, who's Canadian.
Teammate
of Clara Honsinger.
Local,
Yep. So, and Clara was actually in the race as well.
She was.
She did Paris-Roubaix as well with the team. And Allison Jackson, she's really quite famous because she's on TikTok and she does dances.
Oh, really?
She does all these like bike dances and dance things on TikTok. She's hilarious.
Okay.
So she's a fun person to follow on TikTok and on Instagram because she's
They're
just
the same
engaging, yeah.
platforms.
she's just a riot.
Yeah.
But anyway, Allison Jackson got into the break, and the break survived. So luckily, the break survived, and Allison Jackson actually ended up sprinting for the win. And it was just, she wasn't picked to do well, and she ended up winning the race. It was just super exciting.
She was beside herself. Like the look on her face when she crossed over and she had won was like, oh my God, did that just happen? I can't believe this.
And she immediately stopped and got off and did
the
a dance.
Yep.
it was so great
for
to
all of her
watch.
fans. Yep.
So that was really exciting.
Who was the one that went down when they were going in the velodrome?
Oh,
did you watch the
did.
slow-mo replays of all that stuff? They called it the Phantom Ghost Crash or something like that. Like the girl in front of her kind of like hesitated. Something happened, and like she was like maybe a little too much weight up front. It looked like she just grabbed way too much front handbrake or front wheel.
And just her front wheels just slid out.
Like nobody touched her, and she like flew over the bars and flapped. No, that was unfortunate.
That was
She
unfortunate.
was the one that was kind of the predetermined, like going to outsprint everybody at the line winner. I can't
Yes.
remember her name. I'm sorry, but
wasn't Vollering, was it?
maybe I don't know.
I don't know.
I'd be lying if I said yes or no, or that I even knew. But I went back and watched it. I watched that on the Lanton Rouge channel. You went through that whole thing. It was like a 6 or 7 minute video trying to determine what happened. Why did she go down? And it was the girl that was in front leading at the time had like
Lottie Kopecky.
Okay.
Lottie Kopecky. That's
Yeah.
who it was.
The girl in front of her had some momentary something happen. I don't know exactly what it was, and she just like got spooked and grabbed a bunch of front brake and just flew over the bars. It was pretty unfortunate, but
Literally right with a lap to go in the velodrome.
But watching
With,
that,
like,
I'm like,
300 meters.
How did nobody hit her? She's in the middle of a pack, and how did she go down? And like, who reacts like? I don't know. It was unfortunate.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I agree.
What else?
Okay, so that was last weekend. Yesterday we had Amstel Gold race, which is also a fantastic race. This one's not in Belgium; it's in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
And Pogača was in the race. Tom Pidcock was in the race, and Pogača just ran away with it.
Drilled at the last
Like
hill
he
or
does.
something like
Yeah. What was crazy was Pogača drills it. Pidcock goes with him
Yeah.
and stays with him for like 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden, Pidcock just like
drops.
I couldn't tell if Pidcock exploded or if Pogača just said,
I think
I'm going to shift into
I
another
think he
gear.
digged in a little bit more.
Well, I watched an interview with Pidcock after the race, and he's like, I cracked. He's like, I gave
was
it
it.
all I could. I went as hard as I could, and he just rode away from me.
Yeah, so
He said that like when Pogača went, that he just like he goes so hard.
Yeah.
There's some sort of quote somewhere in the
So
Velo
it
News or somewhere.
Really, that was a fun race to watch too. And then there's this guy that just popped up this week, Ben Healy, an Irishman from EF Education First. He ended up taking second. He actually dropped Pidcock. Him and Pidcock got together for a bit, and then he ended up dropping
This
Pidcock.
is after he had gotten dropped.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and Ben Healy,
I'm guessing that
So he
Pidcock
took
just went to the
second.
well on that.
right, he took second at Amstel Gold, and then he took second at the race on Wednesday, Brobstam Phil or something like that. It's another Belgian cobble race. And I was watching that one because it went through Overijse, the town in Belgium where Brandy and I saw the
Cross race?
the cross race.
Yep.
And there's this hill that they climbed like 5 times, a cobbled hill that Brandy and I rode up and down like 5 times. So I'm like,
wow.
Brandy, come look at here's the hill we walked
That's
up and
so
down.
cool.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool. And Ben Healy ended up second in that race too. But
It's a real deal.
yeah, so it kind
He's
of
having a good little.
He had
This
a
is
good
like
week.
a breakout.
he had a breakout
a
week.
breakout. But I mean, you could say
Two
that
big races,
You could say
two
that
World
this is
Tour
like,
races,
We could
and
say
he
like
got second.
this is a season for him.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't know if he's going to do if he's going to do any of the bigger races in the summer. I have no idea. He probably will. He'll be on some sort of support team.
Who knows? He's kind of like
He's for EF, right?
he rides for EF. You kind of want to cheer for him because
We all like the team. I think we like the EF team.
We do, but when he's racing, he looks like he's freaking suffering and in like severe pain, whereas most of these guys hide it.
Yeah.
And he's just like, nope, this is a death march, and I'm death marching for you, and I don't care if you all see it. And so here we go. Anyway.
Hopefully we see more things from him in the future. That'd be great. My hot seat question was going to be, is Pogacar like unbeatable? Is he too hot right now before the summer tour? I mean,
all right,
he's fit.
Who comes into a season and this is ridiculous. This is his 11th win of the season.
Yeah.
11th. Has he lost a race that he's been in?
Yes.
I mean, maybe a stage race.
He's lost a couple of the stage,
but he won.
He
won GC in all of the races that he entered that were stage races. Correct?
Yeah, he's unstoppable, man. I just don't. I mean, like you look at that race, that Amstel Gold race. It looked like he could win anytime he wanted to.
He was 4th at Milan San Remo
overall.
Yeah,
in GC.
Yeah. Oh. Well, Milan San Remo is
one day.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I was thinking of something else.
Remember, Van der Poel attacked at the top of the Poggio,
right. Yeah,
and he couldn't go with him. Yeah,
it's like Tom Pidcock and there's a handful of other guys, but these are like superstar cyclists.
Yeah.
And they're like in a different league. And we're looking at like between Pogacar, Wout van Aert, and Mathieu van der Poel. Like this is like a once in a generation kind of a thing, and once in a lifetime or ever thing to see 3 cyclists at that caliber who are pretty much going out and winning anything that they step into in racing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's pretty nice to watch.
That will change a little bit when we get to the Grand Tours. I mean, that's a different can of worms. But
MVP is clearly the weak link on the Grand Tour stage, whereas Wout is phenomenal.
Well,
we'll see. I mean, MVP, he wore yellow for
a couple days.
It's not
and
like
he won a couple. He won a couple stages, and then he
do 3 weeks.
Went to go crash mountain bikes,
and then he only did the first week of the tour and went to prep
crash
for the
Olympics,
Olympics, and he crashed.
It's going to be
his back.
really fun to see some of this stuff this summer.
Yes, it will.
It will be very fun. Tune in to the podcast because we're going to do some fun stuff. We're going to do a live podcast for sure, and I don't know what else we're going to do. We'll have some fun stuff. We'll talk about it for 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or a decade. Who knows how long we'll talk about it. We'll definitely be talking about the tour.
Crazy. Anything else there,
Champ out.
Champ Bailey out.
Anything in the triathlon world you want to talk about?
I don't know. We need Evan for that.
Heather Jackson.
I was just going to say, you guys going to talk about Heather Jackson?
Heather
I was trying to set you up for that.
Yeah, she won the Belgian waffle ride.
She's not a triathlete anymore. It's not part of the triathlon talk.
She is retired from triathlon, and now she's a former professional triathlete.
Yep.
She's been on the extended podium at Kona before.
Yes, she has probably been, I don't know exactly what her top place is. She might have been third at
10,
one point.
She's been top 10 a few times.
She has won Ironman races in the past.
Yep.
She's won Arizona a couple of times. I mean, so she's like an Ironman champion. She's a big deal.
But she has shifted to gravel.
She's done with triathlon. Yep.
And she's in the Lifetime Grand Prix Fitness this year. So the 7-race series, it's a 7-race series this year instead of a 6-race series. She is in the 7-race series, and she did Belgian Waffle Ride, which is not part of that, but she ended up winning. So
I wonder how she'll do in that series.
There's usually some hitters that show up.
Yeah, there's money
on the women's side in that San Diego Belgian Waffle Ride.
So Izzy King was there.
Yeah.
And was on her wheel or not far from her for most of the race. And then with like 30 miles to go, she got a sidewall cut tear that ended
the day.
She ended up 4th.
Okay. She got a repair, but
she had to go and like have it booted and tubed.
Yep,
and
yep.
Yeah, it was a whole
That's
thing.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
We had some teammates and some friends down there too.
Chris Surratt went down and did the long, the 130-mile race.
How did it go for him? Do you know?
I know that he finished it, which was his intention, and I don't know more than that.
David Goodman was down there.
Goodman went.
David Bussey was down there.
He to finish is to win, and David Goodman did not finish. He broke his handlebar.
It didn't crash.
He
It
didn't crash.
just failed on him.
He just broke his handlebar. And
Interesting.
That was the end of his day.
I have a bunch of other friends that were down there too, but
that's right.
Just because I know a ton of people down in that neck of the woods,
yep.
and they all said it was a fun ride. So fun times.
Fun
What you
times.
looking up there, Lance?
I was trying to find out who the
Winners and
the
losers
winners,
were.
the women, but it's being difficult.
Yep.
The men's BWR race was won by Russell Finsterwald, who spent the whole winter in Tucson training with Keegan Swenson.
Is he the one that we saw up there? Then you called him one thing.
I called him Finsty because
then
that's his nickname. And
who's
it wasn't,
that a-hole?
It wasn't Finsty. It was Tobin Ortenblad.
That's right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's funny.
I thought it was Finsty, but it wasn't.
Do we pass Finsty on the bike paths going way too fast ever?
We did not. We
Okay.
passed Alexi Vermeulen, who took second.
There you go.
We didn't pass Finsty. Anyway.
Oopsie.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Let's do some backpedaling. Matt, you want to go first?
I always like to go first because my back pedal is, well, weaker than yours, I guess. But I rode outside a couple of times. I'm testing a lot of bike computers. I actually have the Stages L200, Stages-L200 that I want to make a video about, even though I don't think anyone is interested in that bike computer.
No comment.
And I also don't think that, I don't think anyone's going to watch that video, but I'm still going to make it.
The content's content, right?
I don't know about that, but yeah. So that, and I've done some running. My quads are super sore.
That's good.
I did 5-mile run yesterday in Corvallis because I was down there for a swim meet.
Well,
Not really a swim meet, but it was a swim camp thing.
Okay.
So we drove down there early in the morning, started the swim camp thing, and I found a trail. And of course, when you don't know where you're going, you sometimes find fun trails.
Yeah.
It was over 1,000, like 1,100 feet of climbing, and it was out and back. So 2.5 miles, there was like 11.5. I mean, it was just so much climbing.
Oh my gosh.
My quads hurt so bad today. I went running this morning again to try to loosen everything up. But like, if you see me limp out of here, it's because stupid amount of climbing yesterday. It was so steep. Corvallis. I thought Corvallis was going to be fairly flat, but in the north, there's some pretty good climbing. If you guys are looking for mountain biking to do or whatever.
Yeah, we've got some teammates that live down that way,
right.
and they rave about the mountain biking down there. And you've probably done some riding down there too, Lance.
I have done some riding down there,
Yeah.
but it's mostly out of Blodgett, which those trails aren't open year round. They just have them for the Mudslinger race. But there is some good riding around there. I just haven't.
Chris
done the other
Ratt and
stuff.
Scott Carroll and
Yep.
a few other people that we know in that neck of the woods, they get down there and ride mountain bikes all
There's
the
a
time.
loop just outside of Corvallis that they both do like once a week.
Okay.
It seems like. So there's
right.
some decent riding.
The trails were gorgeous. I'll show you guys pictures later, but it was like fantastic and just paying the price for it today. So
Love it.
And I've been swimming pretty decently.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's that.
Did you ride your bike this past week?
Yeah.
A lot?
I rode with
Enough?
David Goodman once.
All right.
Again, I'm still trying to test a lot of bike computers. And then I rode by myself once or twice. Again, I'm like, I'll literally just go out the door and just try to like get, 5 to 10 miles and just trying to get some video of like what Hill Climber Pro looks like or Climb Pro feature. How's it compared to the Bolt or whatever?
Gotcha.
So trying to get video stuff made. And so, yeah. So I've been out a couple times.
Like it.
Yep. Race reports.
Lance Hepler backpedal.
Okay, I already told my terrible story of the Bone Crusher mountain bike race where I miscounted laps and I got caught at the line. And
Yes, you did. But there was also another race that you did the day before that.
Yeah.
And there was a little story that happened in there too that I think the audience would quite enjoy.
Okay, so there was a short track race. So mountain bike short track race, only a 20-minute race. I lined up with the B group because they only had an A group, a B group, and a C group race. So no age groups, no nothing, just and I lined up with the B group because I'm racing the cross country races with the
B group.
The B group, the Cat 2s, not the Cat 1s. And I immediately got crap from everybody around because they're like, Hepler, what are you doing in here? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't raced short track in a long time, and last year I was terrible. Anyway, So,
You
ice cream sandwich.
sandbagger.
yes, I did get many sandbagging comments, and it was hilarious. And I actually encouraged them because it was funny. I also got many comments from people later on that said, "Dude, Hepler, you're not sandbagging. You're in the right spot. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about that.
Just forget the haters, man. Just forget all the haters."
Is that how Brandy's talking these days?
I don't know. Those are my New Jersey friends.
All right.
Anyway, so short track race starts, whistle blows, 2 guys get out in front of me. We're on this double track. Right before we get into single track, I make a move to get into the single track first, and that was the race. Basically, I was gone. As soon as I hit the single track, I was gone. I had like a 45-second lead on everybody else. It was 4 laps, and the course had 2 man-made features. There was a flyover, a wood flyover that went over, and then there was a set of wood rollers. So,
That's cool.
Yeah, so like 3 rollers, all made out of wood that you kind of had to fly over.
Pump track it, yeah.
like pump track it. But they were big, and they weren't really that smooth. They weren't like roll. They weren't
symmetrical.
They weren't symmetrical. They were like hard angles.
Sure.
Like hexagon shaped angles instead of like round.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time I got to the last lap, I had like a 45-second lead. And I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna just rip over these rollers. I've been smoking it, I was feeling really good because I'm way out in front, even though I was sandbagging the race. And so I came into the last set way too hot, and I hit the first wood roller, completely sailed over the hump, landed right on my front wheel, endoed, went right over my bars, somersaulted.
I wonder why you have a black eye. We'll never know.
We'll never know. I ripped
Delayed
all
bruise,
the skin off my shin. I flipped off onto the side. I jump up and I'm like, my ankle's twisted and my back is hurting because I landed right on my butt. I crashed terribly hard.
And you were on a brand new bicycle.
I was on a brand new bike, which I put a scratch in the top tube on.
You've ridden that bike, about 6 times now?
Yeah,
And
something
you've
like
crashed
that.
like 3?
Yeah, that's correct.
Sounds about right.
Because that's what you do on mountain bikes. Luckily, I was able to jump back on the bike and finish the race, and the guys in second place didn't catch me, and so I still ended up winning the race, even though I finished the rest of the race with my handlebars crooked, and there was a whole jump line that you went over.
You're giving them a handicap, right?
Yes, I'm going over the jump line with my handlebars crooked, thinking, I'm going to freaking die. I'm going to kill myself. Anyway. So that's why I miscounted laps the next day. And
rung your bell a little bit.
And rung my bell. I did hit my head. I hit my head and my back, and I couldn't walk on my right foot because I sprained my ankle somehow on it.
You got to be careful, man.
I know. But whatever. So I won that race.
Good on you.
Yeah, but
so you got a first and a second out there in the desert.
I did.
Was it Madras? Is that what that was?
It was in Madras.
Or Madras?
Yeah, and I think somebody said the reason you endoed is because you had all that sand in your back pockets. that's why you endoed. Because I blew it. Anyway, it was pretty funny. That's it. So, and then we had a great week here, and Jake and I did this gravel race yesterday, but I'm going to let Jake tell that story.
No, you tell your story. I want to hear your perspective.
Okay.
You had fun?
Dude, we had a blast. So this was the Goldendale Gravel Fondo. This is a Gravel Fondo. It is not a race. It is not a race.
Because you guys don't race whenever you go out riding anyway. So
it's not a race. It just had race results.
It had race results,
race numbers,
and it was timed.
Oh boy,
and they actually ranked you, and gave you split times, from whatever.
But it's not a race.
But it's not a race.
I wonder if that has to do with insurance.
It might. It might.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, there was so Jake and I and Ian Gibson and Don Schloth
and Emily Taberski and Garrett Taberski.
Yeah.
We all showed up and we did the 45-mile version. There's a 90-mile race. Pardon me. Vent Grand Fondo, and there's a 45-mile Grand Fondo.
Medio, yeah.
And we all did the Medio version. And this is in the state of Washington. It was on the Washington State Bicycle Association's calendar, not on the Oregon one. So a lot of Oregon people didn't probably know about it or realize it was coming up. But we went out and did this. And
did you guys feel like you worked together as a team? Drilled it?
A few times, yeah.
we really did. So
our field had 100 people in it.
We had 100 people in it. I didn't recognize hardly any other names. We had no idea who was in it, if any of them were fast, if there was going to be whatnot. But me and Jake and Ian decided that we were going to just drill it. We were going to go full gas, treat it like a race, try to go as hard as we can. And
is there any other people that were like, I'm going to go with these guys?
Yeah.
So you guys were leading.
Yeah, it was
group,
a neutral rollout out of town because getting through town there was like cross streets and stop signs and things of that nature. We're just trying to be safe, and it was the right thing to do. And then as soon as we leave town, there's it was a gradual little uphill, and then the truck pulls off, and then it was a 6 mile climb.
6 mile climb. So it started with a 6 mile climb.
If there's neutral rollout, it's not an event.
Right. Right. Well, he was trying to get us through town safely.
I get it. Yeah.
Which was fine. But yeah, he pulled off, honked his horn, which meant game on.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And we hit it. So it starts with this 6 mile climb. It was all paved, but it wasn't steady. It was kind of rolling.
Rollers, yeah.
What were you guys wattage wise for that first 6 miles? What do you think you're going?
So we
over 300 watts.
Literally, we were buttoned to the back of that truck.
We were.
There was me, Lance, Ian, and then Don.
All four of us.
Right there, like literally, like I'm way too close to this truck because I'm gonna die of like exhaust inhalation, and it was kind of stinking back there. But he rolled off, and then it was us. And if you look back, there was the four of us and 96 other people.
Correct.
And then he goes away, and we start going up the hill, and my watts were a little bit higher than they probably should have, but I felt fine, and we were kind of taking turns. It was myself and Lance, and I think Don ended up falling off a little bit, and then Ian was in there, and then there was one other guy's name was Tim from the Tri-Cities area.
Yep.
And we were kind of like rotating. Like I would fall back, and I was waiting because I could see a bunch of wheels still behind me. I'm like, well, aren't these guys going to come through and take a pole, put their nose in the wind? They didn't want to because I think we're maybe pushing a little bit harder than they wanted to. And by the time we get to the top of the climb, I took a peek back expecting to see 30 or 40 people thinking, we probably,
whittled it down.
It down a little. There was what,
six
other people? There's the three of us and six other people or something like that.
Yeah. So we showed our hand immediately.
Yeah.
Because as soon as the climb started, me, Jake, Ian, we're just trading pulls the whole way up this climb, except this Tim guy took a couple pulls.
Yeah.
And we got like a mile into the climb, and I turn around and take a look, and there's 20 people with us. And we go another mile and a half up the climb, and I turn around, and there's 10 people with us. And I realized, okay, this is, wheedling it out. So we get to the very top of the climb, and there was only 6 other people with us. So there was like 9 of us total. And so then there was a 10-ish mile downhill, partially gravel, partially paved, coming off this climb. And Jake, Ian, and I, we took turns attacking the field, just trying to
soften it. Yep.
We're trying to pop people off.
There's only a couple of people in the field, though. So you're just seeing if you could drop in. There's three people that you guys were seeing.
Yeah, in an ideal world, you get rid of everybody, and it's just the three of us. We work to the finish, and then it's a 1, 2, 3.
It's what we were hoping was that the three of us could stay together and drop everybody else, and then just finish it together. So
still early.
Yeah. So on that downhill, that 10-mile downhill, we lost 3 other riders. So it ended up only being 6 people total.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was a blast because Jake attacked and me and Ian just sat there, and finally somebody went to the front to pull Jake back, and we all just sat on the wheel and we pulled Jake back. And as soon as we got back to Jake,
Lance goes.
I attacked.
Yeah.
And they have to recover a little bit, and then somebody goes to pull me back, and that was the whole point of those attacks, was just to
Someone was cursing Dial's name.
Yes.
And they're
Yes,
like, this
'cause
is
we-
not a race, guys. This is not a race.
we were definitely racing it. So we get down to the bottom of the long hill, and then there was like a 2-mile climb in the middle of it, and it was on a farm road that was dirt farm road.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even gravel, and it was uphill. And I detached a little bit. I couldn't stay with the group. Let me be clear. This is probably the first time I can remember that I was able to do like a 6-mile climb and actually stay with the likes of Jake and Ian.
Yeah, Ian's strong
in
right now,
that
too.
in that first 6 miles. I was working hard. I was going, 90%, but I was just super pleased that I was able to stay with the group on that first 6-mile climb. So that just kind of bodes well for me. But of course, we get to this other 2-mile climb, and I couldn't quite stay with these guys. And there was one guy who was with us. So it ended up being only 5 people up front. Me, Jake, Ian, this guy from Tim from Tri-Cities, and some other guy that never once took a pull.
Good on that guy.
Yeah. So
he knows he's racing.
He was playing his card.
Hang out in the Dial
He's like,
team and
"Dude,
take a whole bunch of pulls.
There's 3 Dial guys here. I'm not taking a pull. He never went to the front. But what happened is he got popped on the gravel climb, and the other 3 guys got away. Jake, Ian, and Tim got away. He got popped, and I was able to stay with him. And then he was super motivated to
get back on.
And I'm like, well, there's no chance I'm going to the front there. I'm not going to pull you back to my teammates. So
not that it would have mattered.
I sat on his wheel, and he worked hard.
Did he give you a look?
He did not.
No?
I think he knew the thing.
it. Yeah.
He's like, I'm like, dude, my teammates are up there. I'm not going to pull you back to my teammates.
Yeah.
So if you want to go, you got to.
Yeah. There was the course, the ride with GPS that he had on there was different than the actual route itself. There was a section in there where we were supposed to, the route says that you're going to continue to go on straight, and then the arrow is pointing to go to a right. And at that point, I think I was up front, and I kind of had my nose down, kind of put in some work. And then all of a sudden, I hear Ian and Tim go, "Whoa!" No. I look up, and I just as I see the little red turn sign go by me, I'm like, GPS says to still go straight. And I remember you telling me, I'm like, crap, this must be that must be the spot. So we all slowed down, and then Ian totally missed a turn. It was one of those little triangular intersections where he had to go up a little bit further, and he rode back to catch up to us. And I rode over a grassy knoll, and then Tim just kind of all waited for each other. And it was in that moment that you guys really effectively came back to us, because you guys were working pretty hard. Well, the other guy was working. He was working pretty hard, and he pulled Lance back in.
That's nice, though.
Granted, I had to do some work just to stay on his wheel, because he put in some digs.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, he put in some big digs, and I think he was hoping to drop
you.
me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I was able to stay on his wheel.
Yeah.
So we caught you guys, and then it was just 5 of us, and there's right along a wind farm, right on the edge of the Columbia River Gorge, up on the rim, there was a rowdier gravel section with big nasty rocks and boulders, and a tricky downhill, and then a steep uphill, and then a bombing gravel descent. And Tim, the other guy, just got off away from.
Well, I knew that was coming up, and I'm thinking to myself, because I'd already watched him do a little bit of descending before, and he wasn't crushing by any means at all. And if there was twice on 2 of the previous longer descent gravel sections, I went blown by him, because he was a little bit more timid on those. He wasn't like a slouch by any means at all, but he wasn't
killing it.
He wasn't killing it. So I'm like, all right, if he gets away from me right here, if I can keep myself maintained, I know that Lance has told me about these rowdy sections coming up. I'm like, I will just let the brakes go, and I will let my size, he's using watts per kilogram to his advantage to climb up this, because he's a smaller guy. He probably weighed 160 pounds at most.
Yeah.
And he put out some decent watts, and he's going to climb a little bit faster. I mean, I could have kept up with him if I wanted to, but I didn't know how that was going to affect me for the rest of the race. So I let him get a little bit of a gap, but I knew that I was never going to let him get beyond a certain point. So I wanted to keep that rubber band attached, knowing that I'd have that downhill section. And sure enough, we crested, we get over the top, and he gets down. He's decent bit of space ahead of me at that point in time. By the time we got to the bottom of that and it starts to roll up, I'm on his back wheel again.
You're right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, climbing up to that ridge, I lost contact with all of you guys. So I was 5th on the road at that point. So you and Tim and Ian all got away. And that other guy who pulled me back, he stayed a little longer with you guys, but he didn't stay with you guys.
Yeah.
So, but by the time we hit that rowdy section where it was steep downhill and then a steep uphill, I blew past him.
Yeah.
Because I caught him really quickly. And then I knew there was a gravel descent coming, which is kind of my thing. And on that gravel descent, I caught Ian.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, fantastic. I've caught Ian. Him and I can work together, hopefully, to try to bridge back up to Jake and Tim. And at this point, we were a minute behind you, I think.
I'm not quite sure. I do know that when we crested the second hill, I probably should have worked a little bit harder to stay with him. But again, I knew that what goes up has to come down. And I knew that there was another gravel descent. And I remember Lance kind of walking me through the route ahead of time. And I knew that it was going to be mostly flat, mostly paved road to get back. And I'm like, right, I know I can time trial and I think I can catch this guy on that. And I know that I've got the gravel descent and I know that I can catch him on those for sure.
Right.
And he crested and he pushed a little bit harder on that second downhill section. And I still put time back into him. But as soon as we got down onto the flat roads, it wasn't an easy chore to bring him back in. And there was a couple times where I was getting closer to him, but I watched him like every 10, 15, 20 seconds, rubbernecking back, taking a look back. And every time he saw that I was getting closer, he put in another big dig. And I'm like, dang it. He's paying attention. He's like, I can't, because it's all flat, long, straight road. And all you have to do is take a look back and you can see exactly where the guy's at. So there's no hiding, there's no way to disguise yourself and make it not look like you're as close as you are. Anyway.
And so it finished with that 10-mile section.
Yeah.
And it was rolling kind of, but very straight. And so Ian and I were together and I'm like, okay. And there was a nasty crosswind at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it started to rain also at this point. So it got a little
gross out. And Ian and I, we traded pulls for 20 minutes trying to bring you guys back. And we realized 7 miles into this 10-mile section that we weren't going to catch you. And the guy behind us wasn't going to catch us. And so we sat up. We were like, okay, forget it. Let's just roll in together. He's like, yeah, I'm totally fine with that. So, So anyway, Jake ended up with Tim battling it out for the win. And Ian and I rolled across the finish line, arm in arm together at the same time. We kind of said, no, we're not going to sprint it out. We're just going to come across together. Because it wasn't a race.
Because it wasn't a race.
All right, Jake, for your back pedal, what happened in the rest of the last 10 miles?
So that last 10 miles.
You know what? I neglected to tell you that I suspected where the finish line was going to be, and I didn't tell you that before the race.
So this is my going back to our hot seat, like big mistakes that you made.
Okay.
Not knowing an unknown route well enough. And there's plenty of technology out there to know. And the route was sold as a 45-mile route, right?
Right.
I'm assuming that we're going back to close to where we started from. And the section, it's a long straight road, right? Mm-hmm. And it's rolling in headwinds and side winds and crosswinds and rain, and like you're just working. And I was slowly bringing him back in. He probably had maybe at one point in time upwards of a minute on me, and by the time we get to the finish line, I think he beat me by 22 seconds,
like 24 seconds, or something like that.
Something like that. And but we crossed the finish line. It was 43.5 miles, right? Yeah. And I do have another story that goes back to my hot metal, and I'll talk about that in a second because it's the same thing. But anyway, had we had another mile and a half, I don't know if I could have beat him because he was doing a really good job, and he's done that race before, so he probably knew where it was, and
he's actually won it several times before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I looked it up.
So I don't know, like if it was another mile and a half, would he have done more of the same, or did he pour it all out there, and that's why I was bringing him in? Because I actually went from like about a minute gap, and I got him down to like 20-ish seconds. And I'm like, all right, I know that I was willing to do the work for another minute or a mile and a half to try and bring him in and make it interesting. I don't know if that would have worked. I don't know if he could have gotten out of the saddle and sprinted, and I don't know what I would have had left in the tank, but I wanted to make it interesting. Yeah. And I love a good sprint finish. We all know that. Yes. So anyway, and I came around this corner and I see this wind flapping flag thing, and I'm like, please tell me that's like some store like advertising they're open and stuff was on sale. And then I look and I see a trailer and I see cones and like I see him sit up. I'm like, damn it, that's the finish line. And like he comes across, and then 20-ish seconds later I come across, and we were high-fiving each other and whatnot. Yeah. And it was
Tim took on the dialed team and beat you guys.
He did.
Nice work, Tim. Yeah. Big congratulations to the
But also
he
very
knew the
cool.
course. He knew the course.
He knew the course, and he also took pulls at the beginning.
Yep. Yeah.
He like mixed it up with us. He didn't just sit, which was great. Yeah.
I went and gave him kudos on Strava, and he even like said something effective, like I was able to get the win despite the dialed guys making it really difficult for me.
Yeah.
And when we came across the finish line too, the race promoter was there with his little trusty sidekick, and they were taking down numbers and times and all that other stuff. He's like, oh my gosh, you guys, that is a fantastic job. You set the course record. That was the fastest that's ever been done. They've been doing it for a decade. So
it makes sense if you guys took it out hard.
We beat the course record by like 14 minutes.
Yeah. That's pretty substantial.
Yeah, it's pretty substantial.
And it's a windy place out there, but I think it's pretty consistent with respect to which way the winds are blowing. I don't think that like if there was no wind, we probably would have gone a little bit faster, but I don't know. I mean, is it more windy usually, or is it the same? Or
part of it too is normally all the hitters ride the long course.
Yeah.
And we actually rode the 6 mile climb at the beginning faster than all the 90-mile racers did.
But they have to go twice as far.
True.
So they had to, kind of reel it back just a little bit. So it was fun. It was I had a blast going out there. I didn't go out there and stay the night like Lance and Ian did. They went out there in their adventure wagons and they spent the night and camped out and did that whole thing. And I just had too many things going on. But I got up at 5:30 in the morning and headed out of here at 6:15 and made good time. Well, got out there 15 minutes faster than I thought it was going to be. And it was just a lot of fun hanging out. Just the gravel scene's such a cool group of people, and just sharing stories and talking about stuff and prepping and like what tire pressure you running, what you wearing today, what's the route, let's discuss pregame. It's a blast.
Good.
I really enjoyed it.
It was so cool to be able to race with Jake again.
Yep.
Jake,
it's been a little while.
It's been a while since Jake has lined up at a race, and so it was cool to have him out there and that we could actually race together and we could actually act like a team and try to use some team tactics, and
all fun.
It just made it really fun and exciting.
Good times.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
and then aside from the race, we did a flogging ride. It was outside.
How was that?
It was good.
Thursday night?
Flogging ride number 2, like official outside one, was number 2, and we had a good time. No incidents, lots of hard work and efforts, and people got a little bit stronger. The weather was pretty decent.
Good.
Yeah.
No Lance because he decided to ride on Zwift because Lance is a Zwifter now.
You're Zwifter.
I did a set of over-unders in the morning, and I'm like, I'm not doing that freaking hard workout and then also doing the flogging and race on the weekends.
Yeah.
I kind of blew it.
And then we did the gravel ride on Tuesday, which was another good one as well. Again, no Lance. Lance was on Zwift.
I did VO2 set that morning.
You're Zwifter. It's okay.
I'm just reminding Lance that we ride outside this time of year. So he's too efficient to ride on my trainer. I like Coco.
That's why I'm able to stay with you at this race. It was the only reason is because I've been doing all this friggin' work. I'm gonna shut up now.
So, yeah, it was good times.
Nice.
Anything else?
That's it.
Back pedals over.
That was a lot of backpedal, a lot
Let's
of
do
racing.
one last thing. Matt Legrand, go.
Bike computers. If you haven't seen the video talking about the 540 and the 840, there's an announcement video for that. It talks about all the features, everything that you need to know about those two devices. Then I posted yesterday a video comparing the 540 and the Bolt version 2. So if you are considering a Wahoo or a Garmin computer, those videos might be worth checking out.
How is the one that you put out yesterday doing?
Good. It's doing
That's
fine.
a fantastic video format, and that's a question that people ask all the time, and it's a very Coke versus Pepsi kind of a topic, and you get a lot of people that are like, no way, I'm never going to do Garmin, or no way, I hate Wahoo, and it's constant back and forth.
I
thing.
literally have the same video on my channel from a year, maybe 2 years ago, where it's like the 530 versus the Bolt version 2. And that video is like one of my top videos.
Wow.
And it's like 100,000 views basically.
Wow.
And so I was like, I'm making this video again because the one I made before worked. So
crush.
I probably will do like an 840 versus a Rome versus a Hammerhead Crew too. That's what I'm getting asked to make by people. So
we're going to be putting out one of those as well.
Okay.
Maybe we need to bump into each other. Like we'd have like a little. Remember,
what
like
are you guys doing here? What are you guys doing
That'd
here?
be funny.
Nothing. Just testing computers.
Is that like one of those things where like Seinfeld and Friends or something like that, like ran into each other on the street?
Yeah. What do they call that when there's like crossovers?
I don't know.
Crossovers.
WB crossovers. I feel like it's a WB thing.
That could be fun. Cool. Lance, one last thing.
This weekend is the first race in the Lifetime Grand Prix Fitness series this year. It's a 7-race series this year. They added another 100-mile gravel event called the Rad. But this weekend is Sea Otter down in Monterey, California. And so that's a 60-kilometer mountain bike race. Nope. 100-kilometer mountain bike race. So it's a 62-mile mountain bike race that's happening this weekend. So we'll see. This is kind of the funnest series that's happening in the U.S. in bike racing right now. So it starts this weekend. So that should be interesting.
Cool. For me, one last thing is there are a couple races coming up. I won't be doing the first one, but I just wanted to wish everybody going out to do the Gorge Gravel Grinder this weekend all the luck. That should be a fun little race. The weather, I think, is looking decently good.
I haven't checked.
And you're going to be out there, right?
I am doing it. Yep.
And I think we've got a pile of teammates going out there. 800 people signed up.
People.
It's sold out. You brought that up to me, like, because my daughter's birthday is this weekend. That's why I didn't register for it. And I just didn't want to commit to something super early and then have my wife come back and say, why did you schedule a bike race on the weekend of our daughter's 17th birthday? Yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, all right, I can't do this. But I think you told me somebody in our community had an entry that they needed to transfer to somebody. And this was like on Saturday, you're telling me like, hey, Tom's got an entry that he wants to transfer. Do you want to take it off his hands? I'm like, I don't think you can. They have this deal where it's 12 days prior to the race that they won't do a transfer.
Yeah.
And it's really, I mean, it's
kind of lame.
It's not it is lame. And
it's super easy to do a transfer.
And I get it. Cause like if you've got 800 people doing a race and all of a sudden you're dealing with all these things last minute where they're wanting to juggle things around, like maybe you don't have the time or the manpower to be juggling around 100 different transfers and whatnot, but 12 days out, I mean, the reason why you would want to transfer something is usually because something comes up. I can understand if it's the night before or 2 nights before, but come on, man. You should be able to do something in the course of the way. And it really boils down to just like your medical release from waiver form. And then they just punch a number in under your name and transfer from the other person. No joke, it probably takes a minute of their time. Shrink that time down a little bit. Make it a little bit more accommodating for your racers. And I went through this last year with them. And I got super sick. This time last year, I was crazy sick. And I tried to transfer my entry to Chris Hannell. And it was 5 or 6 days before the race. And they're like, no, we won't do it.
They wouldn't
I'm like,
do it.
Why? It's really no skin off your teeth to do this. But I don't know. I'm sure they're not listening. But if you are, maybe consider tightening that up a little bit. I can understand like 3 days is probably getting a little tight. But anything outside of that, yeah. Let people transfer.
This is Chad Sperry's company, Team Breakaway Promotions. They're a very successful race promoter company.
Sure.
Most of their races sell out every year. They're very good at them. And I'm wondering if this is one of their policies to just help create a little bit more urgency in registering for their races.
Yeah.
Because the earlier things are all registered, the easier it is on the promoters. And I'm wondering if that's why they made that decision.
Other thing you can do is offer discounts for people that register early as opposed to penalties. It's like the carrot or the stick.
Right.
They like to beat you with sticks, man.
They like the stick.
But the no transfer 10 days out kind of sucks. It does.
Or 12 days out, I think it was.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I agree. 2 days, I think.
That's too tight, I think.
2 days is because like 2 days you're out on the course, you're setting up stuff, you're doing work. You can, that's like time's tight. Like you can't be in front of the computer the whole time doing transfers. But 3 or 4 days before, you're probably not out there on the
even
course.
if you get 20 transfers that 4 or 5 days, it doesn't take that much time to click through that and finish it. And if it's going to be taking good care of your customer and keeping people happy, that's great. There's a lot of people, though, that just get stuck paying for something and aren't able to do anything with it, and it just goes to waste.
Right.
So, I don't know. The other race coming up is on April 30th, is the Banana Belt race down at Hag Lake, put on by Team O. And just want to encourage people to go register for that, because road racing is not doing fantastically well. And that is a great venue, and they did a really good job with it last year, and I'm hoping it's going to be even better this year. They've got a great little race flyer. I like their little graphic that they made. It's fun, and it should be a good time out there. And I know that we had a pretty good showing of teammates last year. I'd like to see even more this year. And I think that, it's good for just about anybody that wants to go out and road race. They've got a bunch of, new stuff, or like great races for like your new racer, like your Cat 4 or 5s. I don't think it's super junior friendly. As a matter of fact, I don't even think they have a junior race, but for the stronger juniors on our team, that's going to be a good place for them to go race.
And that course is got rolling hills.
Yeah.
It's got some good little hills in there.
Yeah.
Not long, but good little hills.
Yeah. You got to tack up some of them, but there's plenty of places to recover. And if you're good at sucking some wheel, you can do that for most of the route. Consider doing that, folks. Anything else, boys?
That's it.
All right. We will be back next week with another one of these. And until then, bye for now.